A very warm welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're still watching Financial Markets, and this is SMART24 TV, where we drive your business. My name is Anthony, and I am your host. The show is proudly brought to you by Altex East Africa, your #1 private stock exchange. Altex is a body licensed by the Capital Markets Authority of Uganda, and it is giving you a chance to buy yourself treasury bonds across East Africa in a way you have never seen before. Now you can dial *292# and transfer money from your MTN mobile wallet onto the Altex platform and be able to transact on different treasury bonds. That is either buying or selling. So you can do all either of the two using the mobile money wallet and getting to use your mobile money as well. You don't have now to file papers, you don't need stockbrokers and intermediates to buy bonds. You can do it on your phone, and Altex is making this possible. You can visit www.altx.com and get to know more about Altex East Africa. Definitely, they will not disappoint you. Now, let's get back to our business here. Remember, we've been looking at the markets here. We started with the US economy, the US stocks, and we realized in the fourth day of trading, after the consumer price index data was released on Thursday, there was a slight improvement in the market performances as per the indexes, the major indexes in the US. Now, we also looked at the African stock exchanges around the continent, starting with the biggest, that is in South Africa, which appreciated. We went to Ghana as well, which also did a good job as well on its index. We also looked at Zimbabwe, which actually declined, and Nairobi. Now, let's get into the Uganda Stock Exchange, our very own exchange here in Uganda. By the way, before we get into Uganda Stock Exchange performances, I want to remind you that Uganda Stock Exchange has launched the $1 initiative, and of course it has been something they have been trying to push for quite some time. Now, what is $1? Now, they're helping small companies that would want to get capital via the capital markets to be able to list, and also rather not listing, but to be able to start their journey small. And instead of having these companies sidelined and not being able to get listed because of the different scrutiny procedures that could maybe not be able to maybe fulfilled by these companies, we are saying let's have these companies very close to the exchange, working closely with the exchange, helping them to build capacity, to see that they can also one day be amongst the big boys list, getting on board on the main board of the securities exchange. There's something like the way you see the growth enterprise segment on other markets, particularly our neighbors here in Kenya, at the Nairobi Stock Exchange. They do have a growth enterprise market segment where you have small companies seeking capital, coming together and getting to raise this capital through the capital markets. And these can also be opportunities for different investors looking to invest into new companies, new ideas, innovative companies, and so on. And so this is what the Uganda Stock Exchange vision is, to see that they bring on board as many companies as possible, getting to help them to also get to list on the main board in some way or another. So that's one initiative you are supposed to look up for as well if you're a small company out there and you want to participate in the market. Remember, the capital markets are for companies, they are for the public, they are for everyone and for the entire economy. If you're out there and you're struggling to make maybe a big capital mark, you're looking for a lot of capital, you have this nice idea, a nice business that is actually impacting lives, you can go to the exchange and present your case. You never know what could happen. Maybe they could give you guidelines on how you can improve. All you need is consistent books of account. You need to have very good management, you need to have a vision for your company, you need to be producing legitimate products, and everything is history, right? So we need more companies surely on the exchange. If you look at the entire East Africa, at least we are not the worst, but I can say we are still not where we're supposed to be. Kenya has over 65 companies. Tanzania has over 29. Rwanda, I think, has over 8 companies, which we're doing better than. But still, there's more we need to do to increase the number of listings on our stock exchange. Well, that aside, we're looking at the 4th day of trading. Now, on the 4th day of trading on the Uganda Stock Exchange, we had about 3 companies participate in the trades, and these of course laid the day to end with 3 top gainers and close to about 4 losers. Nation Media Group continued to be amongst the gainers the 2nd day in a row, gaining by 0.76%. That is closing at 509.79 Ugandan shillings. Another top gainer was Equity Bank Limited, who gained by 0.74% and closed at 1,391.45 Ugandan shillings. Centum Investments was also another company that gained at a 0.07% gain to close at 264.65 Ugandan shillings. East African Breweries Limited lost about 1.42% and was among the bottom gainers, and was actually the biggest loser for the day. And we also had Stanbic Bank Uganda further lose about 0.55%, closing at exactly 20.0 Ugandan shillings. Well, Stanbic Bank Uganda, the situation is getting a little bit worrying. I don't know if this could be the rock bottom, but we seemingly going down to below 20,000, 20.0 shillings, which I hope will not happen. But at least as per data yesterday, the markets closed at exactly 20 shillings. And of course, it's a good thing and a bad thing as well. Of course, looking at the shareholders currently, they could be losing value or money on their shares. But for you who is still out there and has not gotten into the market, this should be your time. This is your time. I mean, 20.0 shillings on a company like Stanbic. That is just like giving out shares for free. With 20,000, you can buy 1,000 shares. For Christ's sake, what if one day we wake up in 5 years and Stanbic stock costs about 20,000? You're going to have gained over about 19,000 on your money. We've seen this happen. It can happen. Definitely it can. It has happened in the past. It can always happen. But what do people do? They wait for things to get better, and then they get excited, and then they try to get into the market at the wrong time. This is the time. And now is the day for you to make a decision. Make that bold step. Buy some stock at Stanbic Bank. Buy some stock at Kenya Airways. Kenya was also having its own issues, of course, with the striking of pilots at Kenya Airways and different things surrounding finances. Still, this is the time to get in, because there are strategies, there are people putting in place strategies to see that they revive some of these, they get the company out of some of the ruts it's struggling in. And the best time to get in is when they haven't, because when they do, things will start getting better, and then things will be pretty expensive. Well, on the losing side, still talking about the losers, we had about 4 losers. We had Jubilee Holdings as well coming as a bottom loser after having lost about 0.16% on their share price, closing at 6,662.85 Ugandan shillings. Kenya Airways also lost about 0.16%, closing at about 118.69 Ugandan shillings. When you look at the top movers on the market today, Stanbic did come as a top mover. Rather, Umeme came in as a top mover with about 521 1,100 traded shares, followed by Stanbic Bank, who traded about 50,000 shares, and MTN came in the third position at about 16,050 shares that were transacted on the market. Now, regarding the performance of the all-share index, which is the benchmark of performance on the Uganda Stock Exchange, we had about 3.07 points shed off from the all-share index, and this was a 0.25% decline in the points there, closing at 1,202.15 points, representing a one-week loss of 2.82% and a four-week loss of 0.54%, and an overall year-to-date loss of 15.17%. Yes, data here doesn't look so positive, but you must remain resilient. You must be wise and get in when the streets are bleeding. Now, looking on the other hand at the Uganda Securities Exchange Local Company Index, this tracks the aggregate performance of the local companies like Stanbic, Umeme, Nemet, all the local companies. This also declined the fifth day in a row, about 0.08% off to about 266.73 points, making a one-week loss of 1.21% and a four-week loss of 1.27%. Whereas on the year-to-date loss, we are still losing about 17.84%. Now, let's get to look at the data here from Umeme, who was the top mover. I'm always interested in the top movers nowadays because they do make a lot of sense on giving opportunity to investors more than even the top gainers and top bottom losers. Now, Umeme is a company that has also a wealth of experience on the exchange. Listed on the 30th of November 2012, the company is 10 years old on the Uganda Stock Exchange. It trades under the ticker symbol UMEM and currently has a market capitalization of close to 325 billion Ugandan shillings, and this is about 1.56% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange equity market. Now, Umeme yesterday traded close to 521,100 shares, valued at over 104 million Ugandan shillings. And currently we have about 1.62 billion shares outstanding and a market capitalization of over 325 billion Ugandan shillings currently. Now, looking at this performance at the Uganda Stock Exchange, of course, the company did not lose a coin on their stock price, maintained at 200.0 Ugandan shillings. However, the year began with the Umeme stock costing about 189.0 Ugandan shillings, and currently we are looking at a gain on their year-to-date of about 5.82%, which is the second best on the Uganda Stock Exchange. In terms of trading, Umeme is still the second most traded on stock, and however, on the other hand, the biggest turnover mover on the market with the biggest turnover over the last 3 months. That's dating way back in August, the 12th to the 10th of November. Umeme within this period has traded close to 21.1 million shares that are valued at over 4.21 billion Ugandan shillings. Their biggest volume and the record high still maintains about 8.13 million on the 23rd of August, and this was about, let's see, you can calculate about 8.13 times 30 times 200, that's about 1.6 or 1.96 billion Ugandan shillings worth of shares that was transacted on a single day. So they do good in big volumes, but as well their market activity and price stability is commendable on the market. That is Umeme Uganda for you there on the Ugandan market. The other gainers we talked about, we had Nation Media Group, rather the movers as well, we had MTN and Stanbic Bank Uganda. Now, via the volume here, in terms of volume, the data shows that we improved about 402%, and this was a very good and commendable improvement. Also, the volume, we had about 400 and 1% improvement in the volumes, and the market capitalization was maintained well above 20 trillion, and to be specific, 20.9 trillion Ugandan shillings. That's it from the Uganda Stock Exchange. Now, away from our market here, going to Nairobi as we wind up the market analysis here. Nairobi also had it had a pretty much better day than Uganda, and we had 47 companies participate in trading, ending the day with 14 gainers and about 23 losers on the market. Now, TPS Eastern African Serena had, of course, the lead in the gainers side at about 8.89%. That was added on their share price of 14.7 Kenyan shillings, closing the day. He was followed by Uchumi Supermarket, who came in surprisingly this time at a 4% gain, as well as Trans Century at a 2.37% gain, and the HF Group at a 1.66% gain as well. Looking at the losing side, CIC Insurance Company declined the most by about 8.04% in the day, and closed the day with a price of 1.83 Kenyan shillings. We also had Car and General at a 5.34% decline, and Ever Ready East Africa at about 5.33% decline, and Total Kenya at 4.21% decline. Safaricom came in as the biggest mover of the market with a total volume of 4.2 million shares this time round, and KCB Group followed suit at a 1.14 million shares volume, and Equity Group Holdings as well at a 1.02 million shares volume here on the on the Kenyan market, and Kenya Power and Lighting Company came in at 679,900 shares volume there on the Nairobi market. Regarding the NSE share index, we had about 0.83 points added on the benchmark index, and this was representing about a gain of 0.65%, closing at 128.74 points. Looking at also the 1 week gain, they are still standing at 0.72%. Well, other remarkable indexes that performed well on the Nairobi Stock Exchange included the NSE 25, which gained about 0.34%. Now, the NSE 25 tracks the aggregate performance of the top 25 companies via market capitalization on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. The NSE 20, on the other hand, declined, which tracks the top 20 companies by about 0.12%. Now, why these indexes are very important, Kenya does have exchange-traded funds, and exchange-traded funds, or ETFs, track aggregate performance of companies. You invest, for example, in the NSE 20 at once. So you have a very, not huge amount of money, but really you have your amount of money split into the different companies. Rather than having all your money put into one company, you can do the splitting, and that this is via the exchange-traded fund. And so Kenya does have some of these, and that's why it's very important for you as an investor to know the different performances of the given indexes here via their market capitalization of the companies therein, also looking at the general movement of these indexes. Now let's have a look at slightly here, Uchumi Supermarket here, who moved the market in the second biggest gainer of the day at a 4% gain. Now, Uchumi Supermarkets Limited is a Kenyan company based in the retail supermarkets operation. It distributes bakery, wines, meat, fish, vegetables, as well as kitchen appliances and the like. Of course, Uchumi was also here in Uganda, though it closed shop because of different problems, which we may not mention here on the show. but in Kenya it is still a very, very powerful company. Now, Uchumi Supermarket is listed on the Nairobi Stock Exchange with a total market capitalization of 94.9 million Kenyan shillings, and this represents about 0.0047% of the entire Nairobi Securities Exchange equities market. And when you look at the volume here, they had about 1,700 shares that were recorded, and a gross turnover of over 437 Kenyan shillings. The day's price ended with a gain, a very good gain of about 4% for the day, and closed the price at 0.25 Kenyan shillings, rather 0.26 from 0.25 Kenyan shillings. The supermarket, however, began the year with 0.24%, 0.24 Kenyan shillings, and has since then gained about 8.33%. And on that price valuation calculation, they have about the 14th position in terms of year to date on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Interestingly, Uchumi is the 18th most traded on in the Nairobi market, and of course this is due to several factors. Their affordability, they do also have a good liquidity, and of course because they are much more affordable, definitely more people will get into that market and try to explore there as well. Now, that's it from the Nairobi Stock Exchange, and I wouldn't want to move any further from that on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Rather, let's now go to the Capital Markets Authority report for the third quarter earnings on the different capital markets here in Uganda. Now, looking at the different, yesterday we looked at the collective investment scheme, and if you remember very well, the collective investment scheme has gained popularity recently. And looking at this data, we saw that there was a total of about 1.44 trillion Ugandan shillings worth of assets under management by the different fund managers that are licensed by the Capital Markets Authority by the end of the third quarter of the year 2022. Now, this growth represents a 10% growth from the 1.3 trillion in the second quarter of the year 2022. And we're seeing various assets under management for the different collective investment scheme fund managers grow. For example, UAP Old Mutual, ICA Lion Asset Managers, Britam Asset Managers, all these showed a positive gain in terms of their assets under management. Now, today we just want to look at the assets under management allocation, asset allocation for the period ended September 2022. Now, it indicates, according to the report, that allocation to government bonds took up 79% and of the total assets under management, whereas the fixed deposits took up about 13.2%, and the call deposits took up about 2.8% of the entire assets under management. This is indicative of a market dominated by collective investment funds that have interest-bearing instruments as the underlying assets. An annualized trend analysis of the collective investment scheme assets allocation indicates that the cash as a percentage of total assets under management has grown from 1.3% at the end of September 2021 to 1.8% at the end of September 2022. The growth in the amount of cash held is driven by the need to increase the liquidity buffers in the collective investment schemes fund managers to meet the redemption requests as the number of collective investment schemes account holders also increase. In addition, the government of Uganda bonds as a percentage of total assets under management have grown 66.2% at the end of September 2022, and that is about from 2021 to 2022 we have grown from 66% to 79%. And of course, fund managers are also looking at definitely government bonds more. And when you compare their investment in government bonds, the government bonds took up about 79%, and the regional equities, for example, Uganda took up about 0.04%, which is lower than 0.05% in the last quarter. As well, you're looking at listed equities in the rest of Africa taking up about 0.06% from 0.07, which was a slight decline in the risk taking or risk venturing of the collective investment scheme fund managers. That's it, ladies and gentlemen, from us. It is a Friday, and I hope you're going to enjoy your weekend. But remember to enjoy responsibly and keep some money. Save some money, but above all, invest that money. You can use the different assets that we offer you here at financial markets: treasury bonds, regional equities, exchange traded funds, options. There's so many things that you could actually invest in, and these give you passive income. You don't need to work a day on your treasury bond to get an interest. No, you just have to keep the money there, and the money will just keep on coming in. And this is exactly how other people have done it, and you too can do it. This is Financial Markets, was brought to you by Altex East Africa, and me, myself, Anthony Sebali, your host. And I'll catch you next week, same time, same place. Bye for now.